So, you want an open floor plan, but you have some pesky load-bearing walls in your way. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to blow it all out, how to support a roof and a second floor load, all with using steel beams. So as you can see, there is a massive wall, and that's like, you walk through the front door and that's really kind of what you're greeted with. And there's this really awesome open space if you take that out. In the kitchen, you're completely compartmentalized. If you're cooking in the kitchen, you're not interacting with anyone in the living room, or you can't see the awesome fireplace and the TV. First up, we had to protect everything we were saving. So in the kitchen, the perimeter cabinetry is staying. The island is going. Obviously that whole wall is full of cabinetry. All of that comes out. But before we can take out that wall, we have to put up temporary support walls. It needs to support the area that this load-bearing wall is supporting. And then there's a second story and the roof above it. A lot of people just think they can go in and start tearing stuff out. The structural engineer is going to actually spec exactly where he wants us to put those support walls. If you see, we've cut holes in our ceiling. You need to poke around. You need to see orientation of either the floor joists or the trusses. We're going to demo all the sheetrock out. We're going to make sure that any wiring that's in the wall is safe. We're going to obviously kill those in the panel while we're doing the work, but we have to look, are those home runs that we're going to reuse? Are those switches that need to be relocated? So we want to make sure that our electricians are involved so that we're not demoing anything that needs to stay, and then also to make sure we have no unsafe conditions. Then we're going to get our support walls up. We're moving right into actual demo. We're demoing out all the flooring in the kitchen. We're doing new tile. We're demoing out that full wall. And we're cutting all the sheetrock in the runs that our 3 new steel beams are going to go in. Another thing I really want to stress, like, just because something's on paper doesn't mean that it's laid out like that in actuality. So we have our framer Pedro and our steel fabricator Alan, and they are meeting. They're talking about how they're going to cut those trusses, how they're going to hang the beams, how they're going to bring those beams in. We're kind of laying this all out, so we're not figuring it out as we do it. Then we have our superintendent Ryan, and he's going to go back over all this stuff, make sure that the game plan that they're coming up with is approved by myself and our project manager, Andrew. Also, if there's any hiccups, we could talk to the structural engineer at this point. You're not just running and gunning, it's very meticulous. In the scheme of things, like building a massive custom home, it's not that big, but it's high liability, right? So you wanna make sure that we're executing all this stuff. So it's like plan 4 times, execute once when it's D-Day and get it right. All right, structural steel, I am always pumped. One of my favorite trades, just looks awesome. One thing that you cannot underestimate is bringing these massive beams in. I mean, these beams are over 20 feet long. They're hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of pounds, right? So you want a clear path. Sometimes if the house is small, we gotta cut a hole in the exterior to bring the beam in. Luckily, we have this big open space and we're able to roll it in on some heavy duty dollies. But you're also seeing the guys, they're doing some initial welding and things like that. What they're doing is they're welding what's called saddles. So a saddle is basically just a cradle. And this cradle is gonna come off to either hold steel beams together or hold wood onto the steel beams. So they're welding a bunch of the saddles and a bunch of the brackets, and all of those saddles are also designed by our engineer. So the guys are they're fitting those saddles onto the beams and stuff as they're bringing them in. Because as much as we can, if we can weld some stuff outside, it's always a little better. We want to minimize the welding we have to do inside, but of course you have to do that to weld the posts to the beams and beams to beams and things like that. Now, they were able to carry in 2 of the smaller beams, but the large beam had to be brought in on material lifts. So these lifts, they're pneumatic, and you have to operate both of them kind of in tandem, and they're really clunky to bring in, and it's just not an easy process. You can see they're having to thread the needle to kind of get that beam into place where they want to put them. Now we have the beams in place, and we're looking, and we found a gap between where the post is going to connect to our biggest steel beam. So what we had to do is Pedro, our framer, had to pack out in between the top and bottom cord or flange of those steel I-beams. He had to pack that out with 2x12 so that all of that space was taken up and we can make a good attachment point. This was a recommendation from the structural engineer. We always have to send that off. He's got to draw it up. We have to get it approved before we can do it. So this put the job on hold for about 2 days. So since we had to pack that beam out with those 2x12s, we went with a bolt through method. So you can see the fabricators are using some very intense drills to drill through that thick steel. They're drilling through so that we can bolt directly through the 2x12s and sandwich them on either side. That is another method that we use to connect wood to steel, and it makes our lives a lot easier. You know what? It does suck. There's always these setbacks and they come up, but you have to do this stuff the right way. I mean, think about it. Imagine if we're rushing, we overlook something like this, some type of a connection point fails, it could be catastrophic. Always, always put the horse before the cart. Do not go ass backwards, try to go too fast and screw yourself and back yourself into a huge problem. Okay, so there's another big header in our way, right in between where we're running the big steel beam, so we had to take that out. We took that out in incremental sections, but as you see, we're putting more support walls. Always better safe than sorry. You're taking out a big member, support it before you take it out. Okay, so here's a pretty cool detail. You see the guys using the plasma cutter. They're cutting a channel out of that I-beam because the steel post is like this. You can't bring the beam sideways. We weren't able to do it in this space. So what we did is we cut that channel out so that we could bring it in and slide it up from the bottom and get it right into place. Okay, now the steel posts that are gonna hold up our beams, wherever those land, they have to land on either a grade beam, the thick part of the concrete, or we have to put in a footer, right? And they have to land in the concrete, and then we have a base plate, which the size is determined by the engineer. It's a big square in this case, and we're drilling into the slab. We are on a grade beam, and then we're bolting that base plate in the ground so that steel post is going nowhere. Okay, next up, this is a careful process. We need to cut the ceiling joists that are perpendicular to our beam. We need to cut that with precision. We don't want to overcut them, right? Because they have to hang on our beam. So we're going in, we're cutting those joists. Our temporary support walls are doing their job. We're cutting them, and then we're getting those steel beams in place. That's the next step. And then we're going to hang each one of those joists or a truss back on that steel beam. Then finally, we are hoisting up those beams with the material lifts ever so slightly, getting it exactly into place, bolting all that stuff together, tack welding, and then doing our final welds after they've measured everything and making sure it's good. All right, now it's just rinse and repeat for the next beam. We're gonna bolt down those base plates into the concrete. All right, this one's a little trickier because we have that garage, there's a header right there with a bunch of framing members. So basically, we couldn't just lift it straight up. We had to come at an angle where we lifted one side up, got it in there, and then jacked the other side up. All right, now we gotta bolt it into place, and then we're welding it, securing that thing. It is not moving for longer than our lifetime. Now, this is always an awesome part. We're removing those support walls and we're seeing the space open up. It's always this like voila moment, and you just see the drastic change. And just like that, it seems like you snapped your fingers and opened it up without taking into account all the work that went into making it happen. Now, our final beam. This is our third beam, which is honestly kind of crazy. We're usually doing like pretty much one, maybe two. But with how the ceiling worked and the framing was, we needed another beam branching off. So basically all three of those beams are connecting. We need another post, we're bolting in those base plates, and then we're getting in that steel beam, and we're attaching it to a post on one side and our big steel beam on the other. All right, so as you can see, this is one of the most drastic changes you can make to an already built structure, opening up your floor plan. It is a complex process. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you have a great engineer, framer, structural steel contractor, and you have the right team, anyone can really do this if you're following the right game plan. I hope this gives you guys confidence to go out and tackle some of these bigger tasks, some of these big floor plan changes. If you do things the right way and you lean on the right people, you will be successful. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. We're gonna be pumping more of these out. Make sure to subscribe. I love y'all. See you on the next one.